Hello and welcome back to my RC channel. I'm Andy RC and today I'm going to be showing you how to set up an FrSky buddy box system. So if you don't know, a buddy box system is where you have two transmitters where an instructor will take full control of the RC model, and then the other transmitter is for a student. The benefit being that if the student gets into trouble, the instructor can take over and save the model and hopefully a lot of money in the process. And these systems have been around for years with RC planes and helicopters, but you don't see many people setting them up for multi-rotors. Now, there are videos out there already which show a simple way to do it, but I couldn't find any videos where the buddy box system gives full control of the model to the student, including the modes and the arm switches, which I think are an important thing to learn. Now, for many of you, buying a Emax Tiny Hawk and a simulator is good enough to teach yourself how to fly. However, a lot of modern day simulators require fast computers to run, which not everybody can afford, and some simulators are expensive to buy as well, and there are some things that you just can't learn with a simulator, which I will demonstrate later. In fact, that's why this video is going to be so long, because the setting up of the buddy box system is only going to be part of the video. Over the last few months, I've been teaching the person who taught me how to fly planes via the same method, only this time it's with quadcopters and I'm the instructor, so God help him. You may have seen the video where I gave my friend and previous instructor Phil the RTF Emax Tiny Hawk, and it's fair to say he wants to move on to something bigger. So I'll be using my pride and joy, which is the SkyStar's Star-Lord, and attempt to get him flying it competently, line of sight, and then FPV. But first of all, I need to set up the buddy box system, so let's get started. Luckily, we have the same transmitters, which are the FrSky Taranis X9D. Mine is the outlandish one, and I've created a model called Instructor. It's already bound and set up with all of its modes and PIDs, so I won't be going through that. But it more demonstrates that you can do this with any model that is already flying. On the other transmitter, I have created a model called Student, which in the mixer has the channels and modes identical to the instructor's transmitter. Now, there is another benefit of me figuring all of this out. Quite often people will ask me to tune their quads, but I fly mode 1. And I can fly mode 2, but as soon as anybody hears my native mode, they say, "Oh well, never mind," and walk away. There are two ways you can set up a trainer system. One is for each individual model, and the other is a global function that always acts as a trainer function, so you don't have to add it to every model individually. And that is going to be my preference if any dirty mode 2ers fancy a go of any of my models. By the way, if you have any FrSky transmitters, this will work even with the new breed of wireless trainers. First of all, I'm going to turn on the instructor's radio and long press the menu button. Then page across twice to the global functions page. Tap the enter button twice and 3 dotted lines will start flashing. At this point, you need to press the switch that you want to give control of the model to your student. Throughout the years, the long momentary switch on a transmitter is usually the most favorable because it forces you to hold it down so you can't forget which switch gives control back to you, and in a moment of panic it's the best option, so I'll be selecting the momentary switch known as SH on the X9D. Once pressed, my X9D has already populated the trainer option. However, you might need to tab over to change it. So to do that, you have to press the exit button and then the minus key to tab over. You will then need to press the enter key again while using the plus and minus keys to find the trainer option. Once you have found it, you will then again need to press the exit button, but there is a bit of a gotcha here at this point. Can you see the checkbox at the end? You have to press the minus key twice to tab over to it and then press enter. You will then get a check mark, and now the trainer function is active globally for all models. If you don't check it, then it just doesn't work. The three dotted lines let you select a singular channel, so perhaps at the start you might want to just give your student one axis to control, but I wouldn't recommend undoing that. This next part is pretty straightforward. You just have to press the exit button from here, which takes you back to the main page, and then you do a short press of the menu button and then press the page button to go into the model setup page. You can then use the plus key, which will take you to the bottom of that screen, and where it says trainer, you need to select master/jack, or if you're using the wireless system, you need to select the master/Bluetooth or whatever it is. If you turn the radio around, the 3.5mm socket is the trainer port. You'll need a stereo cable about 2 meters long. You can plug the lead into the left-hand port, and then do the same on the student's radio. Then on the instructor's radio, you can press exit twice to get out of the main page, then long press the menu button again. This time I'm going to press the plus button, which again takes me to the bottom of the page. You can notice that the channel map is TAER. This is my preferred channel map, and every time I create a new model, it will create inputs and the mixer in that order. So to make things easier, it's best to have the same channel map on both transmitters. However, it doesn't have to be the case. If I turn on the student's radio and again long press the menu button and plus up to the bottom of the page, you will also see the channel map TAER. Sometimes these transmitters are shipped with all kinds of different channel map orders, and changing the default map won't affect any models already created in your model memory. It's only going to map models like this going forward. I'll show you how to change the channel order if you have a channel map mismatch between the two transmitters anyways. So if we go back to the instructor's transmitter and page across 3 times, we come to the trainer page, and you can see the channel map is throttle, aileron, elevator and rudder. But first we have some options. As we all know, OpenTX is very advanced, and if I press the enter button, the cursor moves along to a heading called mode, and if I press enter again, the cursor will flash, and I can use the plus and minus keys to change the option. A plus and equal sign lets both the instructor and the student put input controls in at the same time. Personally, I think this is a bad idea, as the student might think he or she is doing a perfect maneuver when really it's the instructor nudging him or her along. You can also turn a particular control off completely, but again, I don't think this is a good way of training, so the colon and the equals symbol is the best option, which gives the student all 4 main controls until the instructor lets go of the trainer switch. The next one along is the percentage of throw. So if you aren't using another FrSky transmitter, then you can use the percentage to increase or decrease the min and max PWM value of each channel, or it's also a quick way of limiting the stick throw for your student. The multiplier does a similar thing, but I won't need to be touching that. But if your other transmitter isn't the same brand and it isn't reaching the required min and max commands for, say, in Betaflight, then it's there to adjust that. And lastly, we have the channel order, which you can swap around if the channel map is different to that of the instructor's transmitter. So at this point we can turn to the student's radio and create a new model by short pressing the menu button, or use an existing model. I tend to not use any of the wizards and start from scratch, so if I page over and then use the plus button to get to the bottom of the configuration screen, you want to select the trainer option as slave/jack this time, or again the wireless equivalent rather than it being the master. You also want to make sure the external and internal RF is turned off, because it saves power while at the same time it isn't transmitting a signal. If I then page over to the outputs, you can see the channel map is matching as TAER. So we should be able to go back over to the instructor's transmitter, and when I move each axis, the PWM value at the bottom of the screen should change in order of the channel map. So if I first start with the throttle on the student's transmitter, the instructor's first value for throttle should show around -100, and it is doing that. And then if I lift the throttle up, it should show +100, and everything seems fine. So next we can try the same with the aileron, and then the elevator, and finally the rudder. And everything seems to be in order. If they are not, then this is where you can change the channel order, but seeing as I matched the mapping on both transmitters, it was never going to be a problem. If the numbers aren't quite sitting at 0 in the center of the stick, you can also calibrate that from here, but with two identical transmitters, it's not really needed. We can double check the directions are correct by exiting on both of the main screens and then page over to the channel monitor on both of the instructor's transmitter and also the student's. I should be able to move the throttle up and down on the instructor's transmitter, but then hold down the trainer switch and try the throttle on the student's transmitter. And you can see the student's values are copying across to the instructor's channel monitor. So then we can do the same with the aileron, and now the elevator, and finally the rudder. By the way, while you are doing all of this, you want to make sure that the bars are moving in the same direction. If not, then you can exit out of the channel monitor on the student's transmitter and then short press the menu button and page over to, I think it's page 6, which is the outputs page, and you can reverse whichever channel is moving in the wrong direction. By the way, if you just want to set up an individual model with a trainer function for an instructor, then you have to go into the model itself and page over to the special functions screen, which is very similar to the global function screen. You'll have to tab along and then press that momentary trainer switch, and you'll probably have to tab along again and set it to trainer. And the gotcha is still there. You will have to tab over to the little checkbox and make sure that it is checked, otherwise it won't work. And you don't want the special functions trainer enabled as well as the global function trainer enabled at the same time either. It's one or the other. Well, my friend Phil has had about 4 sessions flying like this with me in control of the arming and the modes, but you would be surprised how easy it is to get used to somebody arming for you and changing the modes. I mean, your eyes are blind to the switches with the goggles on, so we need to fix that. Well, first of all, on the student's radio, we've got to tab over to the mixer. You may have seen earlier in preparation for this next bit, the channel setup and switches have got to be identical to the instructor's transmitter on the mixer page. This is easy for me because I only use 3 channels. I call channel 5A for arming, and I have it on the 2-position switch on the X9D, which sadly it only has one 2-position switch, and that's known as the SF switch. Then for channel 6, I create a line called M for mode, which I put on this 3-position switch, which is known as SG. The back position is angle mode, and the middle position is acro and air. Then lastly, for channel 7, I have B, which is short for buzz, on switch SE, and that is for a lost model alarm. And that is all that you need to do on the student's transmitter. But for the instructor's transmitter, it's already set up like this in the mixer. So in order to pass more controls to the student, we have got to get a little bit more creative. So in the mixer page, you need to long press enter on channel 5 and select the option to insert after. This will create a second mix within channel 5 with a plus and an equal sign at the start of it. If you long press enter on it, you can give it a name. I've called it TRA for trainer arm. Then using the minus key to navigate down, you then press enter on the source and change the source to TR5. This is short for trainer channel 5, and it's going to allow channel 5 to pass through from the student's radio to the instructor. But we don't want it feeding through all of the time. So if I scroll down, you can see that we have got a switch and it has been selected. And that switch is the momentary trainer switch. So channel 5 only feeds through when the trainer switch is pressed. Pretty clever, right? But we are not done yet. You then have to go and do that for channel 6. So I've named that TRM. That is trainer mode. And that is using the source TR6. So that's trainer 6. And for channel 7, I've called that TRB, and that is trainer buzzer, with the source being TR7. And don't forget to scroll down each time and select the momentary trainer switch. Now sadly, this last one can't be done via the transmitter. I don't know why, but it can only be done in OpenTX on the computer. So on the instructor's transmitter only, you have to press both of the trims inwards and then turn on the X9D, putting it into bootloader mode. You then have to attach a USB cable onto the transmitter and into the computer and download the latest version of OpenTX. There is an icon at the top. When you hover over it, it says read all models. You then have to double click the instructor model and move to the mixes tab. You have to double click channel 5, which opens a box. Then halfway down is an option to select a switch. You need to select the SH momentary switch in the down position with an exclamation mark in the front of it, and then press OK. For some reason, you can't select this option in the transmitter itself. This is necessary to invert the trainer switch signal when it's in the back position. Otherwise, all of the student switches will act in reverse, and I want to thank Painless360 for helping me to sort this out. I'm sure you guys are all sub to him anyways, but if not, I will link to his channel in the description. So you need to do the same for channel 6 and channel 7. Then you can close the tab. Next, we want to go to the top left and right models and settings to the radio, and we are done. The last thing to do is to check that everything has worked. So just like before, I can turn on both the student and instructor radios, making sure that they are attached with the 3.5mm training cable, and then page over to the channel monitor. I can first of all make sure that the instructor's radio is working as it should, including all of the auxiliary channels. Then I can hold down the trainer switch on the instructor's transmitter and start moving the sticks and the auxiliary channels on the student's transmitter to make sure everything is copying across to the instructor's transmitter. Of course, there can be complications giving your student full reins of the model. You probably want to flick your arm switch and be in acro mode, ready to take control of the model if the student has a problem. But let's just say the student disarms the model accidentally, then you're going to have to be really quick to have your throttle at 0, let go of the trainer switch, and then rearm. But luckily for me, Phil has been flying planes for more years than he dares to admit, and he's one of the best at it too. And once you have cracked the basics, it's time to learn how to arm, take off, and switch the modes. So let's go and do that. First of all, line of sight, and then I'll get on to how we're going to do it FPV in a little while. So I've got everything in the back position. So what you want is also everything in the back position. And this is going to be your arming. So when you do arm the model, I'll have to pass it over to you. So if you flip the arm button now, we shouldn't get anything, right? But put it back. But now, if I hold down the trainer button, if you flick the arm button and off, also, this one's your beeper, so we've got a lost model alarm. That's angle, and then that's acro and air. That's also acro and air. That's why there's no beep between the two, but it will beep. So we're going to start off in angle, then acro. Don't worry about lost model alarm, so that you can ignore that. Really, all you need to worry about is that one and that one, okay? And I need to worry about having all of my buttons in the back position. Right, so everything is over to you.
Okay, so arming, yeah.
So you want to arm it, and up on the throttle, very slowly. And then first of all, just make sure that you've got all of the controls that you would expect. So front, back, left, right. All seems good, yeah? Throttle.
Yeah, still there.
Lee, I think we've done it.
It's not dropped out of the sky yet.
Famous last words.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, go for a couple of circuits then, Phil.
Very carefully, mind.
You can do it carefully if you want.
The Tiny Hawk's one thing, this is totally different.
Yeah. And just try a couple of circuits and stuff.
It's got a lot more mass, a lot more momentum.
Also, it's been a couple of weeks since you've flown this guy, hasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
You could very easily forget, you know.
Try not to pitch forward too much, I don't want too much speed going on.
Yeah, no problem. So what I'm going to try and do now is I'm going to try and take it off you in the air, okay? Yep. Considering we've got all of the modes working and everything. So 3, 2, 1, mine.
Yep.
Yeah. It just dipped because I got the throttle at 0. Rookie mistake, don't do that. Right, okay, I'm going to give it you back. You ready? You want 3/4 throttle, so
Down it,
3, 2, 1, yours.
Got it.
Then I flick out of my arm mode. That means you've got full control of the arm.
Which I won't touch at the moment.
No, you only want to be touching the arm switch when you are landing, basically. So how would you fancy trying going into a bit of acro?
Yeah.
So just level it off and then just turn the switch into the middle or back position, which is ever quickest for you.
Just reposition my hands on the set to feel good.
No problem.
Okay, ready to go.
Okay, so you're in acro.
Now, yeah. Oh yeah.
That's it. So you have to level the model yourself. And then just try and go slow, try and do slow circuits.
This is the orientation thing I'm having trouble with.
Yeah.
So
it's alright, keep going
it's
around.
like that, you know, the turn thing.
That's it.
That's coming at me. I'm good at that.
Yeah, that's it. You got it.
Any further out than that, it feels as though orientation would be so much harder to keep an eye on.
Especially in this light. I also should have put a camera up the front as well, because we've got another box of doom just completely setting us off when it comes to orientation as well. This model does have some LEDs, so if you can see the LEDs, then you're looking at the back of the model, you'll notice. Can you see the LEDs?
Yeah.
So that's when you know you are looking at the back. But line of sight, when you're starting off, especially with a bigger model, it's best to keep it in close just so that you know the orientation is correct. So I'm going to make an attempt at taking the model off you. So we're going to go 3, 2, 1, model is mine. Little bit of a dip because my throttle wasn't at the same position. But what I want to get from today, because obviously you've been flying this guy before, is how little throttle is needed to recover from a maneuver. So these things, they sort of like dance in the air. So this is what I was hoping, obviously, for you to fly around and acro a little bit, but you don't have to go crazy on the sticks to get a roll in. So I'm just going to go up on the throttle, but then very slowly over. And that was probably 2 to 3 clicks of throttle if you're using a ratchet style system. So again, up on the throttle, but you see how very slow, and then just 3 clicks of the ratchet to recover from that. And it's very easy to think that you need to go right, roll down on the throttle, but then like that, you know, you don't need to do that. You can actually let it get pretty close to the ground. Now, I'm not expecting you to do that, but I noticed when we were doing FPV, it was sort of keep the throttle on and keep going kind of thing. But actually, you can think of the thing as more of a brick. You throw it up, you come down on the throttle, you do your maneuver, and then you recover like that.
Yeah, here's a question from a newbie. If you're doing a punch up like that, you can do a slow roll. Do I need to throttle back all the way, or just part
yeah.
the way?
So if you watch my sticks and try and watch the quad at the same time, it's hard. But it's punch, throttle down, and then I've got all the time I need. And do you see? It's just it's not like a full punch out to recover. Anyways. So I'm going to give it back to you, so it's going to be in angle mode.
Gotcha, ready.
And so 3, 2, 1, model's yours. Bit of throttle, that's it. It's hard to get the throttle right.
Yeah, that's hovering at about 40% I've got on that.
Yeah, so do you want to flick it into acro?
Acro, yeah.
Yeah, now I'm not expecting you to do those rolls. You're welcome to have a go at it because we're on the buddy system, of course. And the best thing as well when doing rolls is to keep it so that its back's always facing you, because then you can't lose orientation. We had a bit of a, I think we had a little bit of a fail-safe there. That can happen when you get too close to the model.
Right, so what exactly is this maneuver called, Andy?
Well, it's just a slow roll. So you punch up on the throttle, but not too much. So slowly up on the throttle and straight as well. And then as soon as you get to the top, it's throttle down completely. Yeah?
All right, here we go.
Go for it. Throttle down completely. Oh, too much. But you recovered. Right, awesome.
That was so lively.
Yeah,
So fast.
Yeah, because we've got expo. So if you bring it back towards us now, bring it back. It's kind of like a punch upwards, which is difficult. So you're kind of controlling the pitch at the same time, balancing against the wind. It's not the most easiest maneuver. But yeah, it gives you an idea from when you transfer to FPV how much recovery you need, because it's not as much as you think.
Okay, we'll try that again.
Yeah, go for it. So slow roll, level out. Okay. Look how much throttle, look at that. It leveled out almost at the height that you finished. That's how much throttle recovery you need. And then that's how you start doing them lower then, because you're like, oh, it's like 3 clicks of the throttle to recover from a roll kind of thing.
What I found with the whole flying quads and drones so far, which has literally been this one, the Tiny Hawk 1S, and 1 or 2 other little things for barely a couple of minutes, is a lot of it is you've got to put time on the sticks. You've got to get the feel for it. There's the technical side. You know, you can talk about like 2 clicks of throttle up and down, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But you've just got to do it over and over. And by the time you've done something 5-10 times, you're starting to get that muscle memory, that real feel for it.
That's it, yeah. This is not how an instructor should describe it, but I sort of play chicken with it. So I do a punch, I do a roll, and then I see how far it drops before I need to recover, and you'd be surprised that it is such a small amount. You can almost be touching the ground and recover, you know. But anyways, I'll leave it up to you because you haven't done much flying. Look at that. So off you can.
A little bit quicker that time,
yeah,
to finish it.
But can you see how much height it's retained? You know, you can cut. As soon as you've done your roll, you can leave the throttle off for quite some time. It's kind of different doing FPV because you can't see where the ground is, so you have to kind of guess. Here we can see, oh, there's the ground, so that's how much space I've got to recover. But with FPV, you know, it's not so clear. That's what always amazes me about the 5-inch class, is that they don't just drop like bricks, and the reason for that is the props are still spinning, so they are acting like a wing in itself. So it's not actually falling, it's more sort of flying through its own props. So if you like took a brick and dropped it at the same time with air resistance, the brick would hit the ground first. You're almost dancing in the air. That's why they explain it as sort of dancing.
Too close to my comfort there.
That's right.
I just want to take it further away.
Yeah. But if you drop the throttle completely, you'll see it won't drop fast. And that's because of the propellers. You can actually do that. Like, just do a punch and then throttle down completely and see how long it takes for it to come down. It's a long amount, so completely throttle down.
I don't want to.
No, do it. Throttle down from there.
Comes up too quickly.
No, it doesn't. Throttle down, completely down, completely down, completely down. No. You were almost. It's tricky to train the brain, but that's what you have to do.
Fear factor. It's getting me.
I'm not pushing you too far, am I? Right, throttle down completely. No throttle, no throttle. You can't. Yeah.
It's against my logic. I can't.
All right, I'm going to take control for a second and just show you how far you can go. Okay, so 3, 2, 1, model's mine. So here we go, full throttle, no throttle at all, no throttle at all. Can you?
You've got that experience, I don't.
That is true, but it just demonstrates how little you need to recover on the throttle. So again, 1. We're losing our battery there. Yeah, so that's our battery gone. What I would say this time is just try and keep it as close as you can, because at line of sight, the further, especially in this light, and that stupid box at the front, which I should have removed, is
that's actually helping, because when I see that, I know what's going on.
Really? I'm opposite.
It's the thing of when coming, it's like with planes. We would always used to say when you're doing like anything like a low pass net, you want to be like 20, 30 meters over the patch or that way, and then like 50 meters in the air. If something goes wrong, it's going to be in your face in 2-3 seconds.
Yeah.
And with this feels to me, if I'm doing like a closer flying in thing, because I haven't got that feeling to just like instantly bank away with it's coming or going kind of thing. This is where I'm hoping you're going to just step in.
That's why I'm asking you.
If I'm coming to the left, he's going to hit you first, not me.
That's why I'm asking you.
My seat's slightly further back. Do you get that?
That's why I'm asking you to keep it in close, because I can't see that far.
Right. We're both no good then.
You like to fly far away because it's mistakes away, and I'm like, well, you're far away now, so I can't see where you are. No, you do what you want, Phil.
So we both need a different prescription for glasses for flying.
No, my glasses are good. My this light, as soon as it gets to a certain distance, a quadcopter on its side is just, it could be going any direction, you know. Yeah, so model's yours, and you're in acro, so you'll need to arm, throttle back, and then just take off, and you might want a little bit of pitch forward.
Yeah, I'm not going to take the kneecaps out just yet.
Yeah, that's it. You know, I spent hours just being with the tail back to me, just hovering, you know.
Basics,
yeah. It's when you are turning towards yourself where it's difficult. See, I don't even bother flying backwards, although that's a thing.
For me, it's just getting used to this. I can feel even though it's a relatively small plane, I can feel the power in that and the momentum. And you can't just, like, for me, slam the brakes on if it's going the wrong way. That's what's it's putting me off.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I'm just
I know
going
what you
for a
mean.
gentle, you know, pitch forward just a touch. And then trying to hold altitude.
Yeah, that's...
Keep that bit of a line going.
That's good enough for me. And what's weird with a quadcopter compared to a plane is if you want to slow down, you pull backwards, whereas on a plane that sends you upwards.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, it's more like a helicopter in that sense. I actually got a better perspective now I'm sitting down, because I don't know what it is about standing up, it's just something else to think about, I don't know.
I learnt that so early on, man. Whoa, dude! Man, that's fast.
Yeah, but you did it.
Well, I kind of expected what was going to go wrong this time.
Yeah, yeah, excellent. You did it. I always start off slow and then go quicker, and then that's how you gain your muscle memory, you know. So you can do slow one and just look, you don't even need to recover, because as it's falling, the blades are actually slowing it down. In fact, if you have a crash, those are the types of crashes that you want, that are actually quite high up, because what will happen, and I've heard this from HD cameras, is your props will completely stop. But if you are high enough up, the air resistance will actually start the props spinning again, and then those act as a brake.
Getting that rotation.
Perfect, perfect, man, perfect. And the thing is as well, you're worried about being on top of yourself. You're not on top of yourself, it's just because you have gone higher, so it appears like you're on top of yourself, but you're not, you're still the same distance.
Looking at that now, it's becoming more of, what's the right word? Just a shadow, if you know what I mean. Yeah,
yeah.
There's no colour, no nothing.
Yeah,
it's just
that's the light though, to be fair. Oh, you're getting it, you see, you're getting it. You don't need so much throttle to recover. Look at that. You want basically...
That was like a quarter stick movement from wherever I was.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, you can't do that with the Tiny Hawk because it's full power, because
you need it,
you need it. But with this thing, it's got grunt, you see. So that's why you kind of... It's a bit like planes though, isn't it? You know, you can't fly, say, a fun fly the same as you would fly like an Acro Watt or a Watt 4 or something like. It's a different style, it's a different amount of power, and it's just about flying lots of different types, which I'm lucky enough to have been able to do. And then you can sort of guess then, you know, how it's going to behave.
Well, last week I was trying to, with a Tiny Hawk in the breeze, just cruise forward at a good speed, punch the power, then roll and recover, but try and stay at the same altitude.
Yeah.
Just like you were saying to me, you know, this week and before.
Yeah.
You don't need to like go up like a rocket and hard roll.
No.
Just as long as you've got fair height, just a blip of power.
Yeah, even just the click of power, you know, especially, you know, we're doing line of sight rolls here, but when you do rolls when doing FPV, especially if your camera's further forward, sometimes you don't need to touch the throttle at all, you know, if you go quick enough.
Yeah. How are we for battery time?
I wouldn't worry too much about that. This thing flies for about 5-6 minutes, so you'll hear when the battery starts to die. But what I'm interested in is I'd like you to land it. That'd be pretty cool. So you've got full access of the arming, so yeah, if you want to have a go at that, and then we can have a go FPV before we run out of light. It seems to be getting dark pretty quick, but I suppose we are past the solstice. So as soon as you hit the ground, you want throttle to the bottom, and then I didn't even need to say anything. Perfect stuff. Oh, he wants another go. Mind the grass.
Oh, is that a seagull?
No, that's that bloody glider.
I didn't want to look.
I'm sure there's somebody in that.
That's a bird.
There's
that's a pigeon.
There's a bird almost as big as the glider. No one knows what's going on. Well, I tell you what, Phil, I didn't expect you to be doing these rolls. This must be your 7th, I mean, it's your maybe 3rd line of sight with it, and perhaps 7th flight overall, maybe.
With this one, yeah.
Yeah. And then the Tiny Hawk, yeah, you've got quite...
I've done about 3 hours on the Tiny Hawk now.
Yeah, yeah. Like, people say to me, what is the best route? And I say Tiny Hawk and then simulator.
Yeah.
But if you can't do simulator, then Buddy Box, and we're doing the Buddy Box option, and it's clearly working because...
Yeah, if you've got someone you know who knows what they're talking about, who's got the experience and knows how to teach that, that's the hardest thing.
Yeah.
I found as
which I learned from you because you taught me.
I found as an instructor with fixed wing, seeing other instructors and hearing what other learners had to say. If you don't have the right instructor, you are going to struggle so much, because the instructor has to remember you know absolutely nothing, and watch everything you do all the time. That's a good instructor.
Yeah.
Some bloke who's talking the talk whilst you're flying or trying to concentrate.
Or watching someone's glider.
Yeah, you don't really want that. You need someone who's going to focus and be cool and calm and can react just in that split second when you need it, which I learnt over 20 years of doing this.
Yeah. Yeah, our battery's probably done there, Phil,
Yeah,
so
okay.
you might want
that
it.
heli.
Yeah. Doing great.
That wind's picking up a touch.
Yeah, you really have to compensate for that.
Fingers on the arming switch. Going to drift back, trying to miss the grass.
Yeah.
Of it.
Yeah, I won't worry too much about the grass though. Disarm.
Oh, wrong switch. Dang nabbit. Right. Okay.
There we go. Perfect.
So Phil is doing amazingly well flying line of sight after just a few goes coming from a Tiny Hawk. But now I'm going to show you how I combine the Buddy Box with FPV. You see, the control of the model is completely consistent because everything is going out of the instructor's transmitter. But if I use my FPV goggles while flying with the Buddy Box, which are the Fat Shark HDOs using a rapid fire module, and Phil uses his Ionway goggles and just tunes into the model's frequency, there is a chance that we are not both looking at the same thing because he's using different antennas and the rapid fire is superior. So for now I'm using an AV lead which came with the Furious FPV Dot King, I think, and I'm sending my video to his Ionways. We then sit on chairs next to each other, and so far it's working pretty well. Phil just has to press the joystick to turn off his internal RFs and we are good to go.
Okay, so you want sticks all in the back position.
Yeah. I'm in acro though, yeah.
You can leave it in acro. Okay, throttle at the bottom and unarmed.
Good.
Okay,
yeah.
so model is yours.
Yeah. Okay.
Whenever you're ready, so you'll need to arm it this time.
Wrong one. Back switch, there we go.
That's it. Slowly throttle up and push forward.
Yeah. There we go.
That's it. Then just have at it. Yeah, that sun's getting pretty low, isn't it? Quickly, you can see it over there.
That white thing is just not orange anymore.
Yeah. Has it ever been orange? I think today was the first time I saw it orange.
Now roughly, because it's difficult to do this kind of flying at this site, in this position, because all you can see is a black dot. What altitude is that? It's like 100 and some foot, or what?
What do you see? What do you mean by a black dot?
Well, if we were just to take the goggles off and have a look, all we're going to see
you
is a
wouldn't
black
see
dot.
it. No,
no. What I'm saying is, from what we see in the goggles, what kind of altitude is that going to be?
Oh, what kind of altitude?
Yeah.
Well, how high are rugby posts? Because we're that high. Would you say 30 feet?
At least, yeah. So we're probably,
These are wide-angle cameras, you see.
Yeah.
So it's always.
That's why I'm asking, because it's again not having that ability to fly FPV and then take your head out of the situation at the same time.
Yeah,
tricky.
It's very deceptive and it's a different experience, FPV. But because we're using a wide-angle camera, it's kind of difficult to say the height. All you can say is that I'm at the top of the rugby post. I can remember flying at those towers, the cooling towers, and you still got the model okay?
Yeah.
Just drifting off the side. And
just try not to keep so high all the time.
Yeah. I mean, you can keep high, it's fine.
I want to try and get a feel of...
The problem is, right, there's something called the Fresnel zone, or Fresnel for anybody in the comment that says I'm saying it wrong. If you if you go far away, you want to get higher up, and that is because, contrary to what some people believe, Tony, the Earth is round, so it's not flat. So the further away you go, the higher up you need to be to get a video signal. Look at that.
I did this a month ago, so I got a little bit of practice.
Yeah, but you know, you did it once. No instructions. Look at that. Here's me making out that like, yeah, I'm gonna instruct Phil,
now,
and he's
if I
like,
loop through that bottom post, I'm doing something.
doing power loops through the
But I'm not going
post.
to. It's because you've got to get lined up, and then you've got your drift and momentum. You've got to bear all that in mind.
Oh yeah, it's a different...
An airplane, I tell you, line of sight with an airplane is so much easier. But this is cool with the H-post. You can line stuff up.
Yeah.
Ooh, go through there.
Just when it's windy, it's tricky, especially if you're sort of power looping. You want to turn before the houses as well, just so you know. I was thinking though, I bet they have had far many more rugby balls through their back garden than they have quadcopters. I don't think we've ever had a quadcopter.
Touch wood, none so far. Nil point.
Nil point, yeah. But can you see as you get lower there, it almost looks like you are losing your picture.
Just a little bit, yeah.
That's because you've gone out of line of sight. Can you see the buildings in the way?
Yeah,
but if you give it...
We're just about there in the background.
If you give it throttle, you'll get a much better signal, you see. It comes back. And that is kind of what you don't learn from simulators, is where you can and can't fly, you know.
You've got to know your local geography and what is there.
Yeah, exactly.
Like lampposts, trees, bushes, everything.
And I did a video on this recently. Actually, I think it was either today or yesterday, and I took the rapid fire module that I'm using here and I put it against the new Sky Zone goggles, and I went in a blind spot, and this module picked up a picture, whereas the Sky Zones, they completely lost picture. And the problem was I was flying with the Sky Zones, and so it was sort of muscle memory, right? I kind of know where that tree is, and I came out the other end, and God knows how, but yeah, I made it past the tree. So that's something you have to learn. There are blind spots, like I said, you know. If you go up to that bush there, by the just past the goalpost, if you sort of hover around there, you will drop out. Not as much as you would if you were using your own goggles, because we're using the rapid fire, but yeah, a bit forward because we're close to that fence, and then drop down a little bit more. You can see us in the background there, but if you drop behind it, we'll start a bit lower, bit lower. There you go. Bit more throttle. Can you see how quick it is as well? It's not like it just gradually comes along, but actually with rapid fire, it does more gradually come along, and that's what's great about it. But with other systems, you can be flying along and all of a sudden just lose your video and be like, what happened? Well, you went out of line of sight. That's what happened. Bing!
No, we're not doing that.
So how do you feel about rolls now, having done them line of sight? Any different? So do you come up?
It is still, for me, a different feeling.
You see, to me, you did a bit of a punch there, but then came off the throttle.
I just want to make sure, when I was asking you earlier about altitude, I wanted to make sure roughly how high I was.
Yeah.
So when I'm going to do a roll like that, I just want to make sure I got a little bit extra.
Yeah.
Because I don't have that full-back skill yet when something's not quite right, to think, okay, I've got time, I can recover, I can do something about it.
It's just about pushing it really each time, and you might push it to the point where you end up in a crash, but these are really residual, you know. You might break a prop, but that's about it. You might break an arm, but the arms are replaceable. So, you know, one thing I would say is that if you are trying those maneuvers, then try them over grass, because grass is more forgiving sort of thing, you know. Oh, he's lining himself up for the post. Is he going for the top, the bottom?
I'm not going for the bottom, no way. I was going to do a roll in the middle, but nah, the other one's too close.
Yeah, roll in the middle. Okay, no, it's not too close.
It's too much to think about. This is, being a newbie to this, you've got to think so much more about what you're doing before doing it. You're like, think, hang on, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, then go for it, and think about it whilst you're doing it. And it's going to take time before that subsides.
Yeah. Try and go for a back roll, so you want to flatten out a little bit of throttle, and then off the throttle, and then backwards, quite fast, that's it. And then a couple of clicks to recover. See, we actually gained height somehow.
Yeah.
This is how sensitive compared to your smaller tiny whoop models it is, you really are just correcting small corrections to the point where you're not even paying attention too much to the throttle, you know. Nice. See, that's the other thing that you get as well. When you start doing forward momentum and doing a roll, you have to start implementing a little bit of rudder for that to flatten out, if you know what I mean. It's like opposite rudder almost. So yeah, if you put it in like a forward motion now, get it going in a forward motion, when you do your roll, do the rudder opposite, but just slight, rudder opposite. Do you see how it sort of levels out a little bit more? It's kind of like the opposite to a barrel roll, if you know what I mean. You're getting your rolls more tighter. See, that was a little bit too much and it went a little bit squeezed out, but if you get the combination perfect, then that's how you get perfect rolls, because at the moment we're running what, 10 degrees camera angle, but some people are running 40 degrees. So if you just put aileron in, what happens is when you do your roll, you end up pointing to the ground upside down. So you have to compensate using roll with that. Bit like how you have to compensate in a turn, you know, you have to do the same with a roll, and sometimes pitch as well. That's it, you got it. You're doing much lower rolls. That's much more
I came out of it.
much more comfortable. The thing is as well, it's not great to be really high, because you know the higher up you are as well, the more chances you have of losing signal to some extent. I'm talking about control range, you know. I mean, we don't need to worry about that here because we're in the 80s and 90s for the RSSI. It's just been a good flight. We are like, you know, nearly 9 minutes in. This is an 1800 milliamp Tattoo LiPo for the viewers watching. Bit more throttle, bit more throttle. Yeah, we're at 14 volts, so you might want to think about bringing it in, Phil, and then you can have another go. You want to get under that post, don't you? Keep going, forward. You got it. Right, we want to think about bringing it in for landing, because
that's my goal done for tonight.
13.9 volts, we want to bring it back fairly sharpish, because at 13.9 is where it starts to really drop quickly and you don't have the power. But yeah, so bring it, that's us two sat there. If you don't want yourself on camera, just point it slightly away. You won't see us anyways, and then just remember to disarm once you've landed.
As soon as you get low to the ground, everything gets really fast.
It does, yeah. Disarm. Perfect. I did not touch the controls once.
My hands are properly shaking, I tell you.
Why, mine are fine, but that's probably because I didn't have to do anything. Amazing, Phil.
So there you go. I hope you enjoyed this long form video. Obviously, I couldn't fit every bit of training in that we have been doing, so I know there's probably some of you screaming at the computer saying, no, you need to be saying this, but don't worry, it's all been said in the background. As you can see, this is just a small snippet of the practicing that we are doing, and I hope it's helped you guys as well in getting a buddy system going. As for the SkyStars Starlord, it has surpassed every expectation that I had of it. It's been an absolute beast with this 1800 milliamp Tattoo 4S LiPo. It's given nearly a 10-minute flight time for training. It's a few months old now, but it's still my go-to freestyle quad. I'll link to my usual gear in the description below, and if you found this video useful, then I'll link to my Patreon as well if you can afford to do so. And as always, thanks so much for watching. Please continue to subscribe. Cheers.